Venezuela could arrive nearly or as early as tomorrow, setting up yet another potential conflict between Venezuela's military forces and the opposition. President Nicolas Maduro has pledged that he will not allow the aid into his country, calling it a, quote, Yankee intervention, and reinforced military presence at the border. But people in the country are desperate for aid. The average Venezuelan lost 24 pounds last year due to food shortages. Venezuela was once one of the richest countries in the entire region, in all of South America. It has the largest oil reserves on the planet, and the country's oil production has been nationalized since about the 1970s. Hugo Chavez promised to fix the economy and the country's oil industry, so he ramped up production. That brought billions of dollars into the country, which he used to pay for things like housing, education, and health clinics. Chavez died in 2013. Maduro took over as his successor, but in 2014, the global price of oil tumbled and sent Venezuela's economy into a recession. Venezuela's GDP fell year after year. Take a look at this. But prices continued to rise. That year, 2014, inflation hit 50%. Take a look at this. The International Monetary Fund estimates that inflation in Venezuela will hit 10 million %. This is a percentage, 10 million %. Now, inflation is not necessarily a bad thing when it's low. At 2 or 3%, low, that's kind of where we are in the United States. It can help people pay off loans like mortgages, but hyperinflation like Venezuela's makes it impossible to buy essentials like eggs or butter or toilet paper, not because the prices are so high. Hyperinflation also causes people to hoard whatever is available and more valuable than money. Take eggs, for example. In the span of just a few months, the price of a carton of eggs went up 95%. So people end up stocking up on as much as they can, when they can, which leads to empty shelves in grocery stores and hospitals or pharmacies. Look at this, entirely empty shelves. Because Venezuela's farmers are able to produce less food, and because the available food and medicine is sold or sometimes stolen as soon as it's available. Now, this is a very serious problem that the people of Venezuela are experiencing. NBC's Kerry Sanders is on the ground covering the crisis in Venezuela where he was at the hospital where patients and doctors are desperate for life-saving medicine. Kerry?
Well, Ali, just about any hospital you go to anywhere in the world, if you went to the critical care unit where children are, you would find extremely sad stories. But let me explain to you why it is so horrific here in Caracas, in the capital, in the unit where there are now 10 children who are dealing with renal failure. I take you inside, and first of all, let's meet one young child. This is 8-year-old Winder Rangel, and you can see his sister is there pushing him in a wheelchair. He has for, most of his life now been dealing with kidney failure. Now, that is not uncommon around the world, but what is challenging here is catheters. So you need a catheter when you're getting treated for with a dialysis unit, and those catheters need to be new and they need to be clean. Unfortunately, they have to reuse catheters here. The same thing for, as you see here, another child, 5-year-old Ramses Milan, also dealing with kidney problems. He too needs to have the dialysis. His is, almost twice a week now. But the problem is with those bad catheters, because they reuse them, they get infections, and you can see very listlessly laying there. And the challenge, of course, is getting the equipment at the dialysis to work properly as well, again, because things break and don't work. So you have parents who are tending to their children, and this is very hard to stomach, but they're telling me they fear that they are taking care of their children as they're dying before their eyes, and they don't know what to do. All of this they blame on exactly what you pointed out, this inflation rate that has made products may be available, things that nobody can afford. There's a huge black market in this country for medical supplies, for the medicine that's needed. One of the children we saw today not only is waiting for a kidney transplant, but he has pneumonia, and they have very little that they can do for him. So that brings us to what the United States is doing along with other international partners, and that is sending aid to this country. Now, it is being sent to the border between Venezuela and Colombia in a town called Cucuta. In that town, there is a bridge, and the military in Venezuela has been told by President Nicolas Maduro not to allow any of those items to cross into the country. They're not welcome. They don't want them. They don't want the food, and they don't want the medical supplies because, as you pointed out, they don't want Yankee intervention, and they're suggesting that it's a pretext for the U.S. military to come into this country. But according to the officials that are supporting the self-appointed or the the president by the Constitution, as I guess you'd say here, Juan Guaido, they are going to challenge the military right there at the border, and they're expecting that people will walk over, pick up the boxes, and then come back into this country. And as you'll hear in a moment, they believe that those people coming back will not face a gun from a single member of the military because those members of the military are facing the same shortages themselves. Listen to what Manuela Bolivar had to tell me.
I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I hope they don't put a gun to anybody because we are unarmed. We have no arms. We have only our body, and we're going to walk to have the welcome to the international aid for Venezuela.
Ali, that could begin as early as tomorrow if the aid arrives there in Cucuta. If not, at least by the end of the week.
Terry Sanders for us in Venezuela. Thank you, sir. All right, after the break, Roger McNamee, Facebook.